Hey y'all, it's Diann Bayes, the #1 quester and founder of How Big is Texas? Welcome to my neck of the woods in beautiful Northeast Texas, where the oak woods and prairies converge with the piney woods. How Big is Texas started in 2020 as we were coming out of the pandemic. I drove the perimeter of the state more than 3,300 miles and have been traveling the back roads and the highways ever since to enjoy big miles, big taste, and big adventures. This podcast is for your enjoyment, my amusement, and to share a little something about the Lone Star State. Thanks for listening. Now let's get started on today's Texas Quest. As a female traveler, I have a short list of things I want when I stop to fill up with gas, grab a snack, or take a bathroom break. They include a safe, well-lit location, different kinds of snacks, and clean restrooms. I don't think that's too much to ask when you stop at a business establishment. Back in 1982 in Lake Jackson, near the Gulf Coast of the Lone Star State, a 3,000 square foot convenience store was opened and branded with the name Buc-ee's. According to several articles I found online, it was clean, friendly, and convenient for travelers. What more could you ask for? Before I move forward with the Buc-ee's story, I do want to talk a bit about their mascot. Years ago, I worked for a Texas community that I won't name in this podcast. They claimed to be unique by nature. I pitched the idea of a squirrel as a mascot. We had so many of the cute little guys all over our tree-lined city. I worked with a local advertising agency, and they came up with a delightful character to showcase the fun you could have in our city. I was so excited. When I presented it to the powers that be, the city leadership at the time said they didn't want to be known as a town with a rodent as a mascot. What would people think? Flash forward more than a dozen years, I work in Tyler, and the Parks Department's mascot is an adorable squirrel. Coincidence? I think not. What is the mascot for Buc-ee's? None other than one of the largest rodents in North America, a buck-toothed beaver. The Buc-ee's founders were way ahead of the game. But I digress. The rest of the story is really a hold my beer moment and will be an interesting timeline in Texas history. In 2003, in the community of Luling, a town perfumed with the smell of hydrogen sulfide due to the number of local oil fields in the area, a much larger version of the convenience store opened along Interstate 10. It was placed an hour east of San Antonio and 2 hours west of Houston. That store introduced Texans to a bigger and better version of the convenience stores we'd all grown up with. At 35,000 square feet, the new store was nearly 12 times larger than the first that opened 19 years prior. Fast forward another 21 more years, and the original Luling location has been replaced with the largest Buc-ee store in Texas. When it opened in 2024, it was the 50th location across the Lone Star State and the South, including the locations in the states of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, Colorado, and Virginia. How big is it? The store measures 75,000 square feet and has 120 fuel pumps. That's big, even for Texas standards. Why am I spending podcast time talking about a convenience store, you may ask? Well, if you've been to a Buc-ee's, you know the answer. If you haven't, you might understand it when I'm done sharing more about it. But you might think I'm telling one of those tall tales you've heard about from Texas. A few years ago in 2021, I decided to go on one of my weekend quests to explore the great state of Texas, but this one was going to be a little different. I called up my best friend since the early 1980s, Darla, and I asked her if she would tag along. She had been in the right-hand passenger role before when we took our first trip to visit some of the mispronounced towns and cities in Texas, including Mahia, not Mexia, Burnett, not Burnett, and Palestine, not Palestine. On that trip, she was dubbed my sidekick by an antique shop owner in Burnett, not Burnett. So Darla was the perfect choice to go along for the ride. What was the quest, you ask? Or maybe you didn't, but I'm telling you anyway. We planned to visit every Buc-ee's in the great state of Texas in 3.5 days. That may not seem like a big deal to you. At the same time, there were only 34, but Texas is a big old state, and when you mapped out the stops, the trip totaled more than 1,300 miles. It took us from the Gulf Coast to the Texas Hill Country to the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex and a little beyond. While it didn't make up as many miles as the 3,300 plus I drove on my perimeter trip around the Lone Star State, it was still a lot of land to cover in only 3.5 days. Darla was on board, so we were Buc-ee's bound. One rule I made was that we had to eat every meal, whether it was breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a snack, from one of these locations. For those of you who haven't been to these epically large stores, you should know that Texas based Mega Mart is not lacking in the food variety department. You don't have to settle for potato chips and triangle cut sandwiches in sealed plastic sleeves that have been sitting on the shelf for who knows how long. Here's a sampling of items available for purchase at these 24 hours a day, 365 days a year locations, especially the larger stores. Barbecue sandwiches from the store's pitmasters and barbecue crew, who, after cutting new brisket, sausage, turkey, or pork, scream in unison at you based on the protein they are serving. For example, fresh brisket on the board, sausage on a stick with a tortilla, breakfast tacos with your choice of eggs, bacon, sausage, and cheese, homemade fudge in flavors like chocolate, peanut butter, blueberry cheesecake, key lime pie, and Rocky Road, multiple varieties of beef jerky made on site, beaver nuggets and nuggies, a crunchy treat in sweet and savory flavors. We ate their popular caramely original nuggets as both a snack and in milk for breakfast like cereal. And yes, you can buy milk at Buc-ee's. Homemade bakery items including cinnamon rolls and savory and sweet kolaches, chicken salad, homemade banana, chocolate, key lime, and coconut puddings, homemade potato chips, and multiple flavors of soft drinks and coffee. And that's just a sampling. We had no problem choosing what they offered up, and I don't recall us eating the same thing twice over the 3.5 day journey. One thing we brought along on the trip was one of my many Texas shaped cutting boards and plates. One night in our hotel room, we enjoyed an entire charcuterie board made with Buc-ee's sausage, turkey, cheese, grapes, strawberries, carrots, celery, pickles, and homemade bread to show our followers that you could eat healthy when you stopped. Another decision we made was to purchase Texas wines at the local H-E-B grocery store and do our own pairings of those wines with Buc-ee's crunchy and delicious savory and sweet beaver nuggets and nuggies. You can see these samples on my blog, howbigistexas.com. We did a taste test to determine which of their homemade puddings we liked best. Chocolate was the overall winner, followed by a tie between coconut and banana pudding, with key lime lagging behind in fourth. Maybe the Florida-based Buc-ee's makes a better key lime pudding since they have more experience than we do in Texas. For those of you listeners in the Sunshine State, let me know. You can try them out at St. Augustine or Daytona. Now, food isn't the only thing you can experience at Buc-ee's. I've been known to purchase many a Christmas gift and birthday present at these over-the-top fun factories. You can buy cookbooks, kitchen accessories, jewelry, handbags, lotions, clothing, mugs, canned goods, condiments, and decorative items for the home, to name a few. You can also purchase barbecue smokers, fishing poles, and even bait at some of the stores. If you need firewood for camping, they've got you covered. What about deer corn for your feeder? That's available too. On our trip, I sat under a Buc-ee's themed tent in their Gateway Boulevard, which led to the entry of the store, and ate my lunch. Now, I don't recommend it as they frowned upon my loitering, but tents and camping chairs are there for you to purchase too. And don't forget the ice. It played a big role in the opening the first store and continues to be an important player in all the rest. You can take photo ops at many of the locations as they have a bronze statue of the little mascot near the doors. You can also meet the beaver at some locations during certain times of the day and have your pictures made with the lovable costumed rodent. While we did get a little burned out on the food options at Buc-ee's, we managed to finish the trip with the help of our friends who met us at the stores along the way. More than a dozen family, friends, and former colleagues showed up to cheer us on. We even had some young followers who saw us get out of our car in the parking lot at one of the stores and asked to take a picture with us. They had been following along on Instagram. I don't know if they were groupies for How Big is Texas or Buc-ee boosters. Have I visited Buc-ee since our 2022 mega journey? You better believe it. The bathrooms are still the cleanest. The staff still yells out a "Welcome to Buc-ee's" at every location, and they still serve fresh brisket on the board for you to enjoy on the road. Will I continue visiting? Absolutely. Since Darla and I took our trip, 3 locations have opened in the Lone Star State, and 2 more are set to open next year. Also, lots of birthdays and Christmases are coming up, and I have shopping to do. Someday, when I take my road trips in the South outside of Texas, I'll see what it takes to visit all the locations in the other states. I wonder if they sell items shaped like their states in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, Colorado, and Virginia, or if they have snacks based on their heritage. I suppose there's only one way to find out. Until next time, from Texas, safe travels. Well, that's all she wrote for this episode. I sure hope you enjoyed it. You can follow me on social media at How Big is Texas or on my blog, howbigistexas.com. If you like this podcast, y'all please take the time to give me a Texas size friendly review. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, from Texas, safe travels.